So manacled has been taken down from AO3. Why? Because it's alchemized season. What does this mean? Let's talk about it. If you didn't know, manacled is a prolific Hermione fanfiction. What is Hermione? It is the pairing of Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger. It's a dark, triggering story. It's a very beautiful story. It's intense. It's long. It's a great fan fiction. But it's been taken down, and then the same author is publishing a book called Alchemized later in 2025. Is Alchemized manacled? Well, Senlin Yu is reworking Manacled to be an original story. How can fanfic be original? Let's break it down. The setting of Manacled and the characters in Manacled all belong to different IP. Senlin Yu did not create those. She has just set her story within that world using those characters. However, the story itself of Manacled, and by the story I mean what happens to Hermione and Draco within it, is Senlin Yu's original story. It's that what she will take and rework into Alchemized. But Alchemized will be set in an entirely different world. The history will be different. The characters will be different. They will not be called Draco and Hermione. It will not be linked to Harry Potter in any sort of way. She will create her own magic system, her own intricate world building. She will create an original world for her original story to sit within. This can then be published as her own work. We do not have a blurb for Alchemized yet, so I can't tell you that. I will read you what was in the announcement post. A standalone dark fantasy set in a war-torn world of necromancy and alchemy, with an enemies to lovers romance that is by turn, tender, toxic, and all-consuming. Manacled, obviously set in a war-torn world. From this one sentence, we can see that Sen's magic system will focus on necromancy and alchemy, different to Harry Potter. Manacled has a very intense enemies to lovers romance. You can expect to find that in Alchemized. One thing is very clear from Manacled, and that is Sen is an incredible writer. If you're unfamiliar with fanfiction or you don't know much about it, it is not a book. Fanfic is not published. It's written in service of a community. It is fandom in its purest form. I can't say what inspired Sen to rework her work into an original story. She is entitled to do so. You best believe I will be first in line to buy Alchemized the moment it's out. As of yet, we don't have an official release date. I expect it to be end of September, October. But will it be Hermione? No. Draco and Hermione will not exist in Alchemized because they can't. Because Draco and Hermione belong to someone else. What you will get is a Hermione coded story. So the basic elements of a Hermione story can still be used in original work. In fandom, it's often that they're academic rivals on opposing sides of a war, they're enemies. Their exact dynamic I have read about a gazillion times. If you love Manacled and you're hesitant to read what it's become, you don't have to. If you loved Manacled and you're excited for how Senlin Yu reworks the story, then Alchemized comes out in 2025. If you hadn't read Manacled because you're not part of the fandom, you don't really care about Harry Potter, and you have no attachment to Draco and Hermione, so you didn't read it, but you kind of wanted to read it because the story sounded good, just read Alchemized when it comes out later this year. I feel very strongly about the fact that fanfic is for fandom, and if you are not a fan of that material, then I don't really know why you would read a story based off them. And you can kind of read many different stories that are already available to you that you would be interested in. I have not read Alchemized. At Penguin, I'm looking at you, so I can't tell you what to expect in it at all. A lot of what Sen wrote was original work, dialogue, the inner thoughts of characters. I'm expecting to see some overlap in her new reworking of it, but it fundamentally will not be the same story. It cannot be the same story. It has to be different. And I am more than happy to support Senlin Yu. They have been a pillar of the Hermione community for years. Manacled is prolific for a reason. Senlin Yu is prolific for a reason. I think that this is actually a really exciting thing. It basically means we get to read something similar but brand new. You also don't have to. You don't have to feel pressured to. If you want Manacled to stay exactly as it is in your mind, please do. It's just a little bonus. However, fanfic is free. As a reader, you should feel no sense of ownership over it. You cannot buy a copy of Manacled, the fanfic. That is actually illegal. You can learn to bind your own copy if you wanted that story, but it's now been taken down. That is Senlin Yu's prerogative. I'm kind of like, should you just cherish the memories you had with an amazing piece of work? I don't know. That's a bit more of a complicated topic for another day. But especially if Manacled introduced you to fanfic and you haven't been in the fanfic community for a while, search how to be a good member of said community. Don't buy fanfic. Tell your friends not to buy it. Do not buy a PDF. Do not buy a physical copy. So if you've been wanting to read Manacled but you can't now because it's been taken down, just wait for Alchemized, because I think it has all of the ingredients to be an incredible, incredible read. Last thing before I vanish, fanfic and a book are very, very different. Please refer to fanfic as a fanfic, a book as a book. We review them differently, we perceive them differently. Yep.